What's up, Fragrant World? Welcome back to another Stay Fresh production. My name is Justin Copeland. On this channel, Stay Fresh Productions, we talk about everything fragrance related. Any interest in that kind of content, then welcome to the right place. Hit that subscribe button. Join the Fresh Squad today, which will increase, elevate, evolve, enhance, and improve your freshness. Your freshness being you bringing your best self into every situation, treating people with respect, understanding, and kindness, carrying yourself with elegance and class. And we use fragrance as at least a starting place for that. You'll feel it, others will smell it. Ooh, today we are back with the 6th installment. I did not know this would go this far, but we're on episode 6 of Overhyped Fragrances and Better Alternatives. If you're new to the series, let me just give you a really brief rundown. These words are very inflammatory. I know that, and they are intended to get your attention. They're not complete fluff though, because there is substance here, but you know, it's YouTube. There's so many people out here, you gotta find a way to get people to click on the video. So I appreciate you being here. Now, let me give you some definitions. What I mean by overhyped, I've had a lot of you guys reach out and contend with me in the comments saying you should use a different word, that word is blah, blah, blah.
Semantics, blah, blah, blah.
I'm standing my ground here. I think it works just fine. And again, let me define what it means. It means that this fragrance, if it is deemed overhyped, that means it has a lot of attention, a lot of warranted positive attention, either recently or over the past several years. And as a result, because it's grown so much in the space, it has overshadowed other really wonderful fragrances in its genre that don't get nearly as much limelight or attention. And all I'm trying to do is bring some of those fragrances to you. That's really it. These fragrances that I'm presenting as alternatives are not necessarily better. I'm just saying they're different. They're gonna help you stand out a little bit more. They're gonna kind of broaden your horizons a little bit more if you're looking for new fragrances. So again, that's my only goal. And with that being said, let's jump right into it. Okay, our first of the 5 fragrances, in no particular order here. The chopping block is widening. I'm including fragrances here that I didn't plan to include when I started the series, that I didn't think would ever make it here on the block. But our first one up here, and again, I'm not saying this is a bad fragrance because I love it, and I've loved this fragrance for a long time, but we're talking about Millesime Imperiale from Creed. This is my vintage-ish bottle from 2016, even though not a vintage bottle at all because it came out in the 90s, but comparatively speaking, you will not find this 120 ml bottle anymore. Wonderful scent. Very versatile for being an aquatic, primarily an aquatic scent. It is a sea salty, marine, musky fragrance, but with the addition of some fruits and some citruses and things like that. It makes it so you can wear it day or night, you can dress it up or down. And what I'm going to be doing with each of the original fragrances is I'm going to describe them with 2 adjectives, and then I'm going to find a replacement or alternative that kind of fits within those 2 broad adjectives. So I simply define Millesime Imperiale as classy and fresh. I think that kind of sums it up. So what is a classy and fresh alternative to Millesime Imperiale that you may not be as familiar with? I'm going to respray this and remind myself of this incredible opening of this fragrance that is also from a niche brand. You're going to be able to find it cheaper for sure. This is coming from Acqua di Parma, and this is called Colonia Intensa. Wow. Also very classy. Also quite fresh. Maybe not quite as fresh as the Creed. Now, one thing I do want to remind you of, and I've had some confusion here, the alternatives I'm suggesting are not intended to smell exactly like what they are replacing. They're not supposed to have this exact same scent profile, exact same notes and things like that. More than anything, they're supposed to serve the same purpose, and that will usually put them around the same category or realm as the fragrance that I'm replacing. Just to get that out the way. So this does not smell aquatic. This does not smell overly fruity. It does not smell overly musky, but it is classy and it is fresh. This is mostly a citrus spicy fragrance. A lot of cardamom in here, lots of different citruses, some woods, maybe some herbs. This is actually composed by some master perfumers. I'm pretty sure Alberto Morillas is one of them. And the other one is the one and only Francois Demachy, former in-house perfumer at Dior. So quite a powerhouse duo to compose this fragrance. This is indeed an eau de cologne concentration, but it packs a punch. You're gonna get a good 6 hours out of this thing, which may not sound like much, but for this type of profile, it really holds its own, especially compared to, I'm sure, some current batches of Millesime Imperiale. It serves the same purpose, and I think it's something that does deserve a little bit more attention. So that is Acqua di Parma Colonia Intensa, worth your attention. And I'm going to have links to everything down below. Next on the chopping block, yet again a wonderful fragrance. A lot of fans of this one here. Maybe not quite as much as other niche brands because it is relatively new, but there's a lot of steam behind this train with this brand. That brand being Initio Parfums, and this is called Side Effect. This is the only one from the house I have, and it's a wonderful fragrance. I do find it a little bit simple, not basic, but simple in its composition. There's not a ton going on here. There's not a whole lot of components that you detect, but they do come together in a relatively unique way and a very pleasant way, and one that's actually quite alluring. And that is exactly how I define this fragrance in terms of its adjectives. Alluring being one of them, and sweet as the other one. Again, very broad, very overarching, but it kind of sums it up. It's a little bit spicy and warm, a little bit boozy, some rum is in here, maybe even some tobacco. That's really it. It's kind of this earthy, warm, sweet, boozy tobacco fragrance. Smells, again, very alluring. Gets a lot of hype. I get a lot of people saying it's their favorite. A lot of people asking, can you review it? Can you review it? So a lot of people like it. And again, it's warranted, but I want to direct your attention to something you may not have heard of. And this is a fragrance that I don't have a full bottle of. Man, and this is actually perfumed by one of my favorite perfumers, Cecile Zarokian, coming from, I believe, an Italian brand called Laboratorio Olfattivo. Did I say that right?
Nope.
And again, just a little decant here. This is called Neurotic. And wow, this stuff is what it sounds like. It does fall into this realm of being alluring, definitely sweet, but there's way more depth here. This is dark. If you see the bottle, it smells like this. It is dark, it is a little bit earthy. I get woods in here, I get patchouli. I don't know if patchouli is listed, but I get this kind of like bittersweet, earthy, almost chocolatey vibe hovering around the base, but there's a roughness. Definitely some leather, which I think is lending that rough nature. Gorgeous stuff. Very alluring. It kind of has this signature that Cecile Zarokian has with a lot of her more sweeter, warmer fragrances. I call it the CZ Accord. I don't know what it is, but it smells incredible. I actually have tried it on my skin. It lasts a good 9-10 hours. It turns into a warm, woody vetiver, at least on my skin, with still a nice dark sweetness to it. Incredible stuff, very alluring. And this is actually a gift from my good friends at Unique You. I haven't talked about them in forever. It's been years since we talked about Unique You. They've been a little quiet, but we recently started talking again. They sent me a couple samples to check out. And if you're not familiar with Unique You, they are, I think, Europe's largest fragrance subscription service. If you are looking to discover new fragrances, niche fragrances to be exact, there's not a whole lot of services over in Europe from my understanding. They are based in Germany, and they do ship worldwide though. So you guys here in the US, if you're interested in sampling some hard to find niche fragrances, they probably have them. And how it works, like with many subscription services, you choose one fragrance to receive per month. You're gonna receive it in a little 8 milliliter size. It will come with a little lipstick atomizer that twists up and all that. And you can basically choose all your fragrances from months out, and you can do what they call add them to your calendar. So you'll get a new fragrance shipped to you on the same day every single month. And the cool thing that they allow you to do is you have options. You can either do the subscription, which you pay the monthly fee for. You can do a one-time purchase, so you can just get one 8 ml sample. You don't have to commit to a subscription, and then see if it's legit, see how you feel about the packaging and everything, and if you like the way they get it to you. And then you could, of course, always go back and subscribe, or you could just get the full bottle. They do have the full bottle of every one of these fragrances on their site for purchase. You can also do that after you sample it. If you realize you love something, you can go back to them and get a full bottle there. And the cool thing is, if you do subscribe, you can cancel anytime, no questions asked, no penalty as far as I'm concerned. So I'm gonna have Unique You down in the description. We'll be talking more about them later because they sent me quite a number of really exciting fragrances I'm happy to share with you. So for now, this is Neurotic. This is my first time really diving into the house. I am hooked. I wanna know more. even just down to the presentation. Very, very attractive stuff, and you gotta try this fragrance in some way or form. Unique U is a great way to do it. So gonna have links to everything down below. Okay, if I haven't been canceled already, this one may do it. This is gonna give me a lot of haters. And again, I feel like I have to reiterate this with every single one. I'm not saying this is a bad fragrance. I'm not saying it's not worth your attention. All I'm saying is if you like this fragrance, you're probably gonna like the other one I'm gonna recommend to you that is a little bit different. But this one we're talking about is Prada Luna Rossa Carbon. And I don't need to say much about it. I love this fragrance. I've talked about it a lot on the channel. And the way I describe it is simple and versatile. That's it, simple and versatile. It is fresh, which brings an innate versatility to a fragrance. It kind of smells a little bit like shower gel, almost soapy in a way. Lots of lavender in here. You do have a lot of ambroxan, which brings this kind of fresh woody muskiness in there. That's kind of an overload here. You have these metallic notes in here. Has a sharpness to it, very cooling. There's a spiciness from black pepper, but that's it. It's a very simple fragrance, fresh and clean, easy to wear. You know it, and it's great. But let's give you an alternative. Now, this fragrance isn't completely off the beaten path by any means. In fact, some of you guys might even have it and own it, but you don't see many people talking about this line, which is a little strange because in this realm of these kind of bluer, fresher designer fragrances, nothing smells quite like this. And this was perfumed by Francis Kurkdjian. This entire collection, I think up until the most recent flanker, which I think is called Element. But this is Mr. Burberry, the original Eau de Toilette. Is it simple? Yes. Is it basic? Definitely lean in that direction, but a lot more depth here than I think in the Prada for sure. Can definitely serve the same purposes. Has a little bit more of a handsome feel to it perhaps. You could kind of dress it up. This is based on spices and citruses. I think there's maybe some grapefruit, there might be some cardamom and woods in here. Now performance is no better than the Prada. Luna Rossa Carbon is not a strong performer, but this just smells beautiful. There's something that is basic about it, but there's something that doesn't smell like everything else out there. It does kind of have its own stamp on things in terms of blue fragrances, in terms of easy to wear stuff. But again, a little bit more depth here, which means you could wear it maybe more places. I think it's great, and it's, I think, cheaper than the Prada in most of the discount websites. So I'm gonna have links down below where you can check out Mr. Burberry Eau de Toilette. Nothing special, but really nice. If you don't have your tiki torches out just yet, this is gonna do it. Start lighting them up. Mancera Instant Crush. Yes, Mancera Instant Crush is by this definition overhyped. Not a bad fragrance. In fact, it's a wonderful smelling fragrance. It is a clone, technically. This is a clone of Baccarat Rouge 540. So it's nothing original, it's nothing new. They're kind of piggybacking, but it smells great. It kind of does its own thing in a way. In some ways that makes it better for me over the Maison Francis Kurkdjian fragrance. No stranger to something that is indeed sweet and sexy. That is how I describe this fragrance. It is sweet and sexy. It's quite unisex, maybe leaning feminine for some. It has that kind of leathery, spicy saffron note in there that really brings a very interesting texture to the scent. But lots of vanilla in here, lots of jasmine in here, lots of amberwood. Amberwood is the primary element here. Kind of like ambroxan in a way, with a warm, sweet, woody element to it that really kind of overloads the scent and encapsulates it. But there's a softness from the jasmine, and that vanilla brings a nice, robust sweetness, and that saffron is wonderful. It really, again, adds that texture. And it's a very strong fragrance. So what do we have that falls in this category? Well, we have a fragrance that I can almost guarantee that maybe one of you has tried. And this is from a relatively new house. They just launched last year. I did a review on them. I've talked about them in different videos. From Panouge. Wow. And honestly, for a while, this was my least favorite of the collection, but I've revisited it, and this is a lovely scent, and it's very different. This is called Datura Amaretti. Again, from Panouge. Man, this is an interesting mix of elements here. So Datura, which is a flower, is technically, I believe, toxic in every way. So the Datura note is an accord. It is synthetic. You cannot actually use the Datura flower because it can really harm you. It is a white floral from what I understand, almost like this narcotic, carnal vibe. You know, maybe not terribly different from other white florals, but it is a distinctive note in here. It is a white floral fragrance, but there's more to it than that. I believe you have some cherry in here, And you also have this like biscuit accord. There's something almost bready and savory about it, but it's under the sweetness. It kind of makes it sexy. You wouldn't think biscuits are sexy. I mean, look at this. Is that sexy? I don't think so. The way it combines here with the white floral with the sweetness, I haven't smelled anything like this. It's not as strong as Mancera. Let me get that out the way, but it's no slouch. It is gonna last on your skin maybe a good 7 to 9 hours. Also perfectly unisex, maybe leaning feminine in the same way as Instant Crush, but worth looking into. And the cool thing about Panouge is that they offer free samples on their website. You just pay for the cost of shipping. I think 100 milliliters, this bottle, this gorgeous thick glass bottle, I think is maybe like 120 bucks, something like that, but you can sample it for free. Again, you just pay the cost of shipping. Not many brands are doing that, so that's really cool. So check them out down below. They have 3 other awesome fragrances from this collection that I do recommend you check out as well. Just do it. Broaden your horizons. Don't follow what everyone else is doing. That's all we're saying here. And our final pick from the house of Paco Rabanne, from what I hear, recently discontinued. And this is a great scent. I will say that it kind of let me down a bit. I first smelled this fragrance, I want to say 4 years ago. This was a few years after it came out, but I smelled it 4 years ago. I was on a cruise ship. I sprayed it on. It was in the duty free on the ship. I wore it for the day. I loved it. And I was like, man, I need to get this someday. It took me a couple years to actually get a bottle. I got a bottle, and this is the bottle of 1 million Privé, and they reformulated it. Unfortunately, not only does the performance suffer, I can get around that as long as it smells great, but the integrity of the scent was diluted. It's a little bit thin and watery, and it's not what I remembered. So I was a little bit bummed. I've only worn it once or twice. And then they discontinued it, so I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna hold on to it. Maybe I'll give it some wear, maybe it'll beefen up with time, who knows. But if you're not familiar with the fragrance, it is like a warm, cinnamon, spicy, maybe kind of myrrh. There's a Christmas vibe to this. Sweet, vanilla, almost people say like apple pie in a way. That kind of sums it up. It smells very festive, and I describe it as cozy and welcoming. No better way to describe this fragrance. Again, unfortunately, it's discontinued, so prices are skyrocketing. I'm not seeing anything much below 100 bucks for a bottle of this stuff. So I have an alternative. Again, does not smell like this at all, but it will serve the function, and it may be something you're not familiar with. Now, I've talked about this fragrance a few times, but it gets nowhere near the amount of limelight as something like 1 million Privé. This is coming from an indie brand known as Inica, and I believe you can find this fragrance for, at least at this point, comparable prices to 1 million Privé, if not maybe a little bit less, especially as time goes on. This is probably the most famous from the house, and this is called Field Notes from Paris. I love this fragrance. The closest thing I could relate it to, honestly, is another discontinued fragrance from Lanvin called Avant Garde, which I used to have. I got rid of that years ago. People say that's close to La Nuit de l'Homme, which is funny. So there's this continuum here. But this fragrance, like those, it falls under this kind of fresh, spicy, but warm, sweet, cozy category. You do have a freshness from bergamot with some spiciness from coriander really coming together. A little bit of African orange flower, which brings this kind of softness to the fragrance. It's a white floral, but it's balanced really well here. You do have some tobacco lending a bit of a darkness in there. Patchouli definitely here grounding things with this woody earthiness that's very subtle. And beeswax and tonka bean adding a nice warm sweetness in here to make a scent that makes me think of sitting in front of a fireplace in a cafe in the wintertime in the late afternoon, just really cozied up, feeling good, maybe reading a good book or something like that. That's the vibe that I get out of this. I hope that gives you an idea of what it might be like to wear it more than me talking about what it smells like. That is Field Notes from Paris, one I recommend checking out if you're looking for this vibe that will be great for the upcoming holidays. So once again, a little reminder, go down to the link below, check out Unique You. Check out their selection. They have stuff that you may not be familiar with, and maybe some stuff you've heard of that you have a hard time getting elsewhere, and start to broaden, widen those horizons. I'd love to know what you guys think of my picks. If you've tried any of these, whether they're alternatives or the originals, let me know down in the comments below. If you like the video, please like the video. It really helps me out so much, and it's very easy. It costs you not even a calorie. And thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.